Yeah, so this is from last Friday, so a week from today, and all I did was I analyzed the size of the loss in terms of the empirical distribution. In other words, all of the other returns that we've observed throughout the entire history since inception across 85 different futures markets, and I zeroed in on the ones that had the most extreme moves. And you can see that, for example, the crude contract, Brent, in fact, the entire energy complex experienced a downside move that exceeded what we have seen historically in all but about 20 out of every 10,000 trading days, right? So, I mean, that's a pretty substantial VAR shock. And a lot of systematic funds, especially, were relatively highly weighted in the crude complex because it has been such a strongly trending market. It has been symbolic of this stagflationary regime. And it was a bit of a market darling. It had done very, very well, strong trend across a wide variety of tenors. So the other thing to notice was that the volatility observed in those markets coming into last Friday was such that the move was even more extreme when you adjust it for the volatility estimates, right? So in this plot, all we've done is scaled Friday's move as a multiple of the expected volatility of those markets. And again, this is the number of occasions per 10,000 trading days that we might expect to see a move of that magnitude in a wide variety of markets. You can see that on a vol-adjusted basis, a much wider variety of markets experienced quite a substantial move, right? So worse than we might expect in all but 20 days out of 10,000, right?
So for the listeners out there, we're looking at a bunch of graphs with a number on top across these markets, and I'm looking at, I would just say an average here, a median number of like maybe 5 days for every 10,000 trading days. We've seen moves like this across 15 to 20 different contracts or markets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is what was going on under the surface, right? That you didn't see if you were primarily focused on, a U.S. balanced portfolio or the S&P or the Nasdaq. And then the 30th, which was just past Tuesday, was actually another really interesting day, but it impacted even more esoteric markets, right? So just looking at Tuesday, the grains complex and some of the softs also had a really tough day. So, bean oil, mill wheat, cotton, palm oil, wheat, canola, all experienced an extremely negative day. The grain complex was at or very near an all-time high. The vol was relatively low. And yet, we can sort of hypothesize that some of the de-risking that some of the systematic funds were undergoing as a function of the VAR shock that they'd experienced on Friday, then sort of migrated over into some of the other complexes where there was fairly heavy concentration. We know by observation the grain sector was one of those. And as a result, we saw another really rough day for that complex. And again, on a risk-adjusted basis, we see the same sort of thing in the grain complex, just a really, really tough day. So, I think it's really illustrative to think about markets other than the S&P in terms of, what's going on under the surface and the type of risk that can manifest especially for sort of alternative strategies.
And it just so happens that it came at a time, like everything that Darius spoke about, it was clearly building up toward that, right? But what was interesting in terms of news is that we were talking about this on Thursday. Remember, Adam, you're like, this Omicron thing is coming in hot. Yeah, I wonder how this is going to affect the markets, given the weaknesses we're already seeing. You were talking about the deflation trade. Like you were very much into like we need to we're going to see how it's going to turn out. And certainly Omicron, I thought it was that the guardians of the narrative were all eating turkey dinner on Friday, right? Because I was looking at that. I remember that's Slack exchange. I was like, this is nonsense. Like, this is one of 20 variants. What are they talking about? Like, there's no data to back anything that the UK was doing. Whatever, it's probably not going to be a big deal. But when you don't have the guardians at the gate, right? When you have people rational people that know about this taking the other side, and you have all these dynamics in the background, and you're in one of the worst, the least liquid days in the year. It just created this Armageddon, right? Like it was astounding to see how you never know what narrative is going to create this catalyst.